Hello everyone and welcome back to our virtual Mishnah Berurah share. We're holding Mishnah Berurah Chelik Gimel and Mirz Hashem. Today we will be learning Daf Lamed Hey Amud Aleph, completing Siman Reish Samach Beis and beginning Siman Reish Samach Gimel. We're continuing to learn Hilchos Shabbos. We pick up today on Daf Lamed Hey Amud Aleph, second line down in the words of the Ramah. Our learning today should be a schus for Achenu Kol Beis Yisrael Hanasuna Batzara Ubashivya Ha'imdim Bein Bayam Ubein Bayabasha Hamakayim Yerachem Aleihem Ve'yetzihem Yitzar Lervacha Me'afela La'ira Mishiba L'Gula Hashta Bagala V'Zman Kariv V'Naimar Amen. So yesterday in Siman Reish Samach Beis we're discussing the halachos of covered Shabbos, and we said that one of the important things on Shabbos is to have Shabbos begadim. Not only are you supposed to have Shabbos begadim, but we saw that you're not supposed to wear any of your Shabbos begadim during the week. You're not supposed to wear weekday clothes on Shabbos. Everything you're supposed to have special for Shabbos, and it's supposed to be specifically for Shabbos. Now, when should you get dressed for Shabbos? Sounds like not such a big deal. I guess you'll get dressed whenever you want to get dressed for Shabbos, on every Shabbos, whenever it's convenient. But no, like everything else, our lives are governed by halacha. And there's a halachic aspect to this question too, of when you should get dressed for Shabbos. Says the Ramah, Hagah, V'yalbish atzmai bebigdei Shabbos, you should get dressed in your Shabbos clothing, miyad achar sharachatz atzmai, immediately after you bathe for Shabbos. That's when you should get dressed for Shabbos. So you should take your shower, and right after you take your shower, you should get dressed for Shabbos. Why? We'll discuss in a minute. V'zeu k'vod Shabbos. The Ramah says that would be proper kavod Shabbos. Proper kavod Shabbos is take your shower, take your bath, and then right away put on your special Shabbos clothing. Val kain, and therefore, says the Ramah, lo yirchatz l'Shabbos elo samach la'erev. Therefore, you should do your bathing and your showering later in the day, when it's close to Shabbos, shel yalbish atzmai miyad, so that you should be able to get into your Shabbos clothing right away. So the Ramah really said two separate things over here. One thing he said was, when should you get dressed for Shabbos? You should get dressed for Shabbos right after your shower. You take a shower, you take a bath, like covered Shabbos. Right after that, you should get dressed for Shabbos. Then says the Ramah, therefore do your bathing close to Shabbos. That way, you'll do your bathing, and right away, you'll get dressed for Shabbos. Think that there are two separate things at work over here. One is that first the Ramah is telling you, you should take your shower, and then right away, you should get dressed for Shabbos. I think what the Ramah is telling you is, we want it to be very clear, we want it to be very nicker, that the shower that you took, that the bath that you took, was done l'kavod Shabbos. Now, if you get up in the morning, Friday morning, and you take a shower Friday morning, and then you put on your vachadika clothing, and then you go to work, how is it that your shower was l'kavod Shabbos? It happens to be that you took a shower on Friday. It happens to be Erev Shabbos, but there's nothing here that says that you just took a shower l'kavod Shabbos. But if you take a shower l'kavod Shabbos, and then you get dressed for Shabbos, so you went into the shower, you came out, and you got dressed for Shabbos. Now it's very nicker that you went ahead and you took a shower l'kavod Shabbos. But now, what should you do? Take a shower Friday morning and then put on your Shabbos clothing? No, you're not supposed to do that, because then you're wearing your Shabbos clothing during the Chayil. You're wearing your Shabbos clothing during the week. Erev Shabbos is a weekday. And befrat on Erev Shabbos, you might be very busy in the kitchen. You might be cleaning the house. So you don't want to be wearing your Shabbos clothing. So therefore, says the Ramah, the proper way to do this is to take your shower later in the day, take your shower, come out of your shower, put on your Shabbos clothing, and now you're ready to go ahead and greet Shabbos. And the truth is, I didn't write it down over here. I thought I wrote it down. Looks like I didn't write it down. There's a Maimer Chazal. Where's my Shabbos Gemara? The Gemara says, is it Chaf Hey or is it Chaf Gimel? Let's see. Oh, here it is. The Gemara says like this: Amarav, Damar of Yehuda Amarav, Kach Hayom and Haggai Shal Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi. The minig of Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi was Erev Shabbos, on Erev Shabbos, Biviyim loy areva malaya chamin. They would bring him a wash basin full of hot water. V'roichitz panav yadav v'raglov, and he would wash his face, his hands, and his feet l'kavod Shabbos. And then right away, umisatef, and then he would go wrap himself in his Shabbos begodim. V'yoshev b'sadinin, he had special linen garments for Shabbos, hamitzu yotzin, and those linen garments had tzitzits on them, which, by the way, there's a chiddush in halacha over there, because let's remember that tzitzits is supposed to have a string, each corner is supposed to have a string of tchelis, and tchelis is wool. Tchelis is not only, people think of tchelis, they think of the color, but tchelis is not only blue, it had to be dyed wool. So tchelis by nature was wool. Now we all know that when you have tzemer upishtim yachtov, if you have a linen garment and you have wool tied to it, you've just created shatnez. But we learn out from psukim that asay doicha lois asay, and by the mitzvah of tzitzits is doicha, the iser of shatnez. So you could have a linen garment and you could put tchelis on it. And that's what the Gemara is saying over here. But for our purposes, what the Gemara is saying is that the minig of Rabbi Yehuda Bar Eloi was, they brought him this areva malaya chamin, and right away he did his washing, v'roichitz panav yadav v'raglav, umisatef, and then immediately he put on his Shabbos begodim, v'yoshev b'sadinin hamitziyotzin, he put on this special linen garment for Shabbos that had tzitzits, v'doima l'malach Hashem tzavakos, and he looked like a malach Hashem tzavakos. He made his preparations for Shabbos, and he brought in, he was getting ready to bring in the kedusha of Shabbos, and he was mamish doima to a malach hashares. But in any case, what we see over here is that you do your washing, right away you get ready for Shabbos, and this is supposed to be done close to Shabbos. That's what the Ramah is telling us over here, and he brings this down from Nagos HaMordechai Shultei Giborim. Okay, let's take a look here at the Mishnah Berurah. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Ois Katan Yud Aleph. Miyad acher, you should get dressed in your Shabbos clothing right after you do your bathing. Says the Mishnah Berurah, v'gam hanoshim nehagois koydem adlakas haneiros lirchos es atzman. We learned this earlier, that the chiyuv to bathe on Erev Shabbos is not only on men, even though you could look at this and you could say maybe this is like a mitzvah seish asman grama. Obviously, Kavod Shabbos and preparation for Shabbos has a time aspect to it. So you could look at it and say it's Zman Grama, maybe Noshim are Pturin, but they're not. Earlier we had the Mishnah Berurah brought down an HaTorah Zikanim that says this beferish. So V'gama Noshim Nehagois Koydem Adlakas HaNeiros, the women had the minig that before they lit Neiros for Shabbos, Lirchos Es Atzman, they took a bath or a shower, V'lilboish Bigdei Shabbos, and they put on special begodim for Shabbos, V'ashrei Lohem, and they are fortunate if they do this. Omnam. However, says the Mishnah Berurah, Bayamim HaKitzarim, in the short days, the short Erev Shabbosos during the winter, Shemes Acharim Leishev Bachanos, where it was the habit of the women to be in the stores late in the day on Erev Shabbos. And only then, when they left the stores, did they come home and bathe and get dressed. And like the Chavetz Chaim mentioned earlier, he told us that you have to be very careful on the short Arvei Shabbosos, especially back in the day when they did not have indoor plumbing and they went out to a Beis HaMerchatz to go bathe. So he said it's very easy to come to a Safek Chil Shabbos. People go to the Beis HaMerchatz and they spend some time over there, and then before you know it, they're ending their bath or their shower. It might already be into Shabbos, and now they take a towel and they soak the towel and they squeeze out the towel, and now already you have shilos with kibus, etc., etc. Lachain, therefore, says the Chavetz Chaim, Toiv lahazir lahem. It would be good to warn the women, she'agdimu lavai, that they should come home early, lirchayitz v'lilboish, so that they have plenty of time to bathe and to get dressed. Ukeshemis acheres, and if they're late, mitzvah yoiser shetadlik kach b'malbushe choil. It would be a bigger mitzvah that they should go do hadlakas Neiros Shabbos. They should go light the Shabbos licht wearing their weekday clothing. Milavei chas v'shalom l'safik chil Shabbos. That would be better than coming chas v'chalila to a safik of chil Shabbos. And if the husband sees that the woman is taka running late, mitzvah gedola, it would be a great mitzvah, says the Chavetz Chaim, shehu yad lekaneiros, that the husband should go light the Shabbos Neiros. V'lo yashkiach b'ketatas ishtoi. And he shouldn't worry about the fact that his wife is going to give him a hard time. So he's downstairs, his wife is upstairs taking a shower, he sees that it's late, he should go tzin licht, that he shouldn't worry that his wife is going to come and give him a hard time, you took away my mitzvah. Now also, she didn't light, it's going to be a whole question, does she have to light extra neiros? But says the Chofetz Chaim, v'lo yashkiach b'ketatas ishtoi. U'mitzvah gedola yoser leishe b'choshech. Obviously, it would be a bigger mitzvah to sit in the dark and not to have licht at all. Melechal Shabbos chas v'shalom. Better that than to come to Chil Shabbos chas v'chalila. Ois Cotton Yud Beis, the Mechaber said, Samach la'erev. So you should go ahead and do your showering and your bathing close to Shabbos and then get dressed right away. Back in the day, in the common scenario in the times of the Chofetz Chaim, and earlier, the Chofetz Chaim is saying, obviously, when the Mechaber is saying that you should do your bathing close to Shabbos, this must be the washing that you're going to be able to do at home. When you're doing a small amount of washing in your house. Like the Gemara brings down, the Gemara that I just read to you about Rabbi Yehuda Bar Ilai. But if you have to go out to the Beis HaMerchatz, bevadai certainly mehanachain, it would be proper lahaktim atzmai. Don't learn this Mishnah Berurah and say, oh, I should go to the Beis HaMerchatz late in the day. The Chofetz Chaim is very worried about people going to the Beis HaMerchatz late in the day. Kedei shelayavei l'chil Shabbos, because if they go to the Beis HaMerchatz late in the day, that could become a stretched out affair, and they might chas v'chalila come to various forms of Chil Shabbos. Certainly in the winter, kishayamim kitzarim, when the days are short and Erev Shabbos is short, then certainly you have this concern, and people, if they need to go to the Beis HaMerchatz, they should do it early in the day. That's where the Mishnah Berurah wrote about the risks that potentially could be involved in being in the Beis HaMerchatz late on Erev Shabbos. That concludes Siman Reish Samach Beis. Now we move ahead to Siman Reish Samach Gimel, where we start to talk about Hadlakas HaNeiros, the lighting of the Neiros for Shabbos. Says the Mechaber, Siman Reish Samach Gimel, Mi v'mi hamadlikin. Who are the ones who should be madlik? Who should light Neiros Shabbos? Ve'imto b'yom hama'unan. And what if you make a mistake on a cloudy day and you think it's already Shabbos and it's not, etc., etc. Ubo yud zayin seifim. And here we have 17 seifim. So this is a rather lengthy siman. Says the Mechaber Sif Aleph. Yehei zahir lasois ner yofeh. You should take care to make the Neiros Shabbos beautiful. Now, the makor for this halacha is very, very interesting. If you take a look at the Baragoyla says that this is a Torah, and it is. This is brought from the lashon of the Torah. Where does the Torah get it from? The Torah gets it from a Gemara in Shabbos and Chav Gimel Amud Beis, from a Maimer of Rav Huna. Rav Huna said an interesting thing. Amar Rav Huna said, Haragil Bener. Somebody who's ragil b'ner. Now that Gemara is talking about two different types of Neiros Shel Mitzvah. That Gemara is talking about Neiros Chanukah and also Neiros Shabbos. Comes along Rav Huna, and Rav Huna says, Haragil b'ner. Somebody who has the habit of lighting Neiros. Interesting lashon. Somebody who has the habit of lighting Neiros Chanukah and Neiros Shabbos. Haragil b'ner. Havyin leibanim talmidei chachamim. They will be zoichet to have children that are Talmidei Chachamim. Now, there's a very basic problem with this Maimer of Rav Huna. Could you imagine somebody saying, Harogil b'tfilin? Somebody who's rogil to wear tefillin, then the influence of the tefillin will affect him and he'll become more kadosh. What do you mean if you're rogil to wear tefillin? If you're a Yiddish mensch, you have a chiv to wear tefillin. You have to wear tefillin every day. What's this lashon haragil b'tefillin? It sounds like it's a dvar rishus. It sounds like it's optional. And we're saying somebody who has the habit to do this optional, wonderful thing has a great schus, and he'll have banim that are Talmidei Chachamim. Neiros Chanukah and Neiros Shabbos are not optional. They're chiyuvim. You have a chiyuv of Neiros Shabbos. You have a chiyuv of Neiros Chanukah. So what does Rav Huna mean? When Rav Huna says, Amar Rav Huna, haragil b'ner, somebody who's ragil, he has the habit of lighting neiros, having leibanim talmidei chachamim. So the Bach says that from this Maimer of Rav Huna, that's where the Torah learns out that there's an extra special inyan of being mahader, that the Neiros of Shabbos should be yafeh, that you should have beautiful Neiros for Shabbos, and that's what Rav Huna means. Rav Huna doesn't mean somebody who's in the habit of lighting Neiros Shabbos every week. You have to light Neiros Shabbos every week. That's a chiyuv. Haragil b'ner means that he's in the habit of beautifying the mitzvah of Hadlakas Neiros Shabbos. That's the one that gets the bracha Havyin le banim tamidei chachamim. Now, we're going to see later that the ikar chiyuv of Hadlakas Neiros Shabbos is one ner. It's brought down a minig to have two neiros. Why? Because Zachar v'Shamar. But the ikar mitzvah of Neiros Shabbos is one ner. Okay, then you have two Zachar v'Shamar. Then we're going to see that there were different minhagim. Some lit 7. Why 7? Keneged all 7 days of the week. Some lit 10. Why did they light 10? Keneged the Aseres Hadibris. Starting to sound like the Pesach Seder over here. Who knows 1, who knows 2. But these are different minhagim that are brought down. We're all very aware of the minig where people light one additional ner for every child. What is that based on? That's based on this Gemara of Rav Huna. Since Rav Huna said, Haragil b'ner, Havyin le banim tamidei chachamim, and we're going to see that that's why there's an extra special inyan, that a woman should be mispal when she lights neiros, that her children should be tamidei chachamim, so therefore it is appropriate that you add on another ner for each child. Okay, let's go weiter. So the Mechaber said over here, Yehei Zohir, you should take care, Lasois ner yafeh, to make beautiful neris. Says the Mishnah Berurah Katan Aleph, Yehei Zohir, Hine ikar adlakas haner, hu chayva mishum mitzvah seinik Shabbos. The ikar mitzvah of Neiros Shabbos. Why do we light Neiros on Shabbos? Says the Mishnah Berurah over here, the ikar chiyuv is mishum mitzvahs oineg Shabbos, to enjoy Shabbos. Now, if you take a look at Yos Katan Aleph for the Sharet Zion, the Chavetz Chaim gets this from a Tosfos Shabbos Chav Hey Amud Beis. Tosfos says over there, very straight out, Tosfos says that the chiyuv of Hadlakas Neiros Shabbos is for Oinig Shabbos. Rashi doesn't use that lashon. Rashi says Kavod Shabbos. He doesn't say Oinig Shabbos. He says Kavod Shabbos. And Rashi goes on to explain that a choshev suda was done with a riboy of neiros. By a choshev suda, they lit it up beautifully with a lot of neiros. Guess nowadays also, by choshev parties, they like to have all sorts of special lighting. Back in the day, they didn't have strobes, they didn't have colored LEDs with RPG lighting and everything else. Neiros were a chiddush, and a lot of neiros was a luxury. So by a choshev suda, they had neiros. So Kavod Shabbos is to have more neiros. The Paiskim, the Achrayim, they're medayik that there seems to be a difference over here between Tosfos and Rashi. You know, it's very easy for people to say, Kavod Shabbos, Einik Shabbos, they mean the same thing. No. I once heard from Klaus Friedrich, Klaus Rebbe, Zechet Tzaddik V'Kadosh L'Vracha, every word that the Rishonim wrote were written with Ruach HaKodesh. What he called Hashpa'as HaKolmus. What's Hashpa'as HaKolmus? The way Klausenberger Rebbe explained Hashpa'as HaKolmus was that the words literally mean the influence of the pen. What does that mean? Klausenberger Rebbe said, before a Rishon wrote something, he put in all the amelus in the Torah that he possibly could. He worked as hard as he could to ferret out the accurate understanding of the learning, of the Torah, of the kavanah of the Torah Kedosha. He harved, he worked, and he reached his conclusions. Then when it was time to write, he took the pen, he held the pen, and he had in mind a shem. He had in mind the Shem Hashem, and the pen would start writing. Okay, this is beyond my pay grade, but I'm telling you, I heard this from Friedrich Klausenberger Rebbe. But what I'm taking from it is you have to realize that every word of the Rishonim, never look at the words of a Rishon, the words of Rashi, the words of Tosfos. He meant this. He meant that. There's no such thing. Every ois, every word is Kaddish V'Tar, and every word is Mechuven and Meduyuk. So if Tosfos wrote Oinik Shabbos and Rashi wrote Kavod Shabbos, they don't mean the same thing. Now, what does it mean that you light neiros for Oinik Shabbos? So we're going to see that the ikar chiyuv of Hadlakas Neiros Shabbos is b'mokom suda. It's at the place where you're going to eat the meal. Now, I want you to imagine something. I want you to imagine that you go to your favorite restaurant. You go to your favorite really high-end steakhouse, and you go and you order their most expensive steak, Wagyu tomahawk steak, whatever. And you go and you get that steak, and when they bring you the plate with the steak, they bring you a blindfold. And they tell you, we want you to eat the steak blindfolded. Do you think that steak is going to taste the same way? It's not going to taste the same way. Part of the experience of the steak is the look. Part of the experience of the steak is also the smell. Try to go eat the steak holding your nose. Won't taste the same. Part of the experience of the steak is also the sound. When they bring you the steak and it's sizzling on the plate, that's part of it. I always said that this is one of the pshatim when in the midbar, when the Yidden complained about the mun. Complain about the mun. We think about the mun. Wow, what a treat, the mun, right? You have this food that could taste like whatever you want it to taste like. That's what it'll taste like. It sounds like the luxury of luxuries. What is there to complain about? And it had all the nutrition you needed, everything. What is there to complain about? So one of the things I always said was, it says that the mun could taste like whatever you wanted it to taste like. But did the mun look like whatever you wanted it to look like? Did the mun sound like whatever you wanted it to sound like? It might have smelled, I'm not sure, because there's such a strong correlation between smell and taste, I'm not sure. But what I always said was, at a certain point, Klal Yisrael said, yeah, it's a good steak, but it doesn't have the sizzle. It's missing the sizzle. I want to have the steak, but I want to have it with the sizzle. And that's one of the reasons why the Rebbe Shalom got so upset with them. For the sizzle, you're complaining? Everything that I give you, but you need so much kashbis, you need to have the sizzle? And that's one of the reasons why the Rebbe Shalom got so upset. What's the geil in Yonenu? I think Tosfos says that the halachos Neiros is for Einik Shabbos because you need your Suda to be well lit so that you could enjoy the achila and the shtia of the Shabbos Suda. In order to properly enjoy the food, you need to be able to see it also. So that's why Tosfos says that chiyuv of halachos Neiros is Einik Shabbos. So let's go back to the Mishnah Berurah here. It's cut in Aleph. The Mishnah Berurah says, "Hine ikar halachos haneir hu chayva mishum mitzvah Einik Shabbos." The ikar chiyuv of halachos Neiros of Shabbos is an inyan of Einik Shabbos. Umachmas hidur mitzvah. Now there's an inyan of hidur mitzvah. Yira la'asayse yafeh. Once you have a chiyuv of halachos Neiros, you should be mahader. Zekeli va'anveyu, you should do hidur mitzvah, and you should have beautiful neiros. V'ayin lekamon siman reis samach daled sif vav, where we're going to see in the Mechaber a discussion of what types of shmanim, what types of oils you should use. The Mechaber is going to say that the mitzvah min amuvchar is to use shemen zayis, not because there's any special quality like a ruchniistic quality or a kabbalistic quality to shemen zayis, but simply because shemen zayis is what goes through the wick in the nicest way and makes the most beautiful flame. So it's an inyan of hidur mitzvah. Says the Mishnah Berurah Vayter, Ois Cotton Beis, Yofeh. You should have a beautiful licht. V'isa b'shas, it's brought down in the Gemara Daf Chav Gimel Amud Beis. Tezoicha avur zeh lebanim tamidei chachamim. This is the Gemara that I just brought down of Rav Huna, where Rav Huna said, if you beautify your Neiros Shabbos, you'll be zoichet to have children who are tamidei chachamim. And this is learnt out. We see this in the pasuk in Mishlei, where the pasuk says, Ki ner mitzvah v'toira oir. What do we learn out from that pasuk? Al yedei ner mitzvah de Shabbos, through the ner mitzvah. What's a ner mitzvah? Well, one of the most common ner mitzvah is the ner of Shabbos, ba or the Torah. Through the lighting of the Neiros Shabbos, you'll be zoichet to the oyer of Torah. It's brought down that when they lit the menorah in the Beis HaMikdash, ki ner mitzvah v'Torah oyer, the lighting of the menorah in the Heichal in the Beis HaMikdash brought down to this world a hashpah of Torah. It was easier to understand the Tosfos when you had a menorah in the Heichal. It was easier to learn Torah. You were zeicha to a higher level of Torah when you had a menorah in the Heichal, because it brought a hashpah of Torah down to the world. The same way Parnasa was easier when you had a shulchan in the Heichal. When you had a shulchan in the Heichal, it brought a hashpah of Parnasa into the world. Ulekach, therefore, roi, it is worthy, shetispalo isha achar shetigmar hahadlaka v'habracha, a woman after she completes the lighting of the Neiros, and of course after she makes the bracha, sheyiten la HaKadosh Baruch Hu banim zecharim mi'irim b'Torah, that she should be mispal, to be zoche to have sons that will be Talmidei Chachamim. V'hadlakas haner tzarich lihiyos b'chol ha'chadorim. This is a very interesting halacha. The Mishnah Berurah brings down over here. He brings this down from the Magen Avram, and he says from other Achronim as well, that really there should be Neiros in every room. We think of Adlakas HaNeiros Shabbos, we think about in the dining room. Says the Mishnah Berurah here, really, you have to have a nair in every room. V'hadlakas haner tzarich liyos b'chol ha'chadarim sha'ilach sham b'Shabbos al kol panim nair echad. There should be at least one nair in every room. Av she'eino ichol sham, even though you're not eating over there. Why? Kedei shelo yikashel be'etz oy be'even, so that you shouldn't end up tripping on a piece of wood or on a rock. Miu habracha tavarech ala neir shebimekayim achila. However, the bracha should only be made on the neiros that are by the suda, because that's where the ikar chiyuv is. The ikar neiros of chiyuv are by the table. Now, what is the inyan of the neiros in other places? So one of the inyanim that are brought down of Neiros Shabbos is for shalom bayis. Now, we're used to hearing the word shalom bayis and thinking about shalom ben ish le'ishtay, between husband and wife. But shalom bayis also means just literally that there should be peace in the house. When you have a pitch black house, let's remember, back in the day, the light in the house was Neiros. And you can't light a nair on Shabbos. And you can't have a Shabbos clock on the nair on Shabbos. Now imagine if you had to be in a dark house all Shabbos. If you have to be in a dark house, people are stubbing their toe and they're tripping on books and they're stepping on Lego. That's a special feeling when you're barefoot and you step on Lego. Every parent of young children could always remember the very special feeling of stepping on little Lego when you're barefoot. So you're not going to have shalom bayis if the house is pitch black. Therefore, it's brought down. It's not enough to light Neiros Shabbos only by the Suda. You need light all over the house, wherever people are going to go on Shabbos. You need light so that there should be shalom bayis. The place can bring down that nowadays, in our reality, this is really not a concern. Even when we turn off the lights in the bedrooms and everything else for Shabbos, we have the Shabbos lights, we have the light in the hallway, we have this, we have that. We don't live in a reality where it's going to be pitch black in the house if we don't put a nair in each room, and therefore the place can say that we don't have to be mahader, we don't have to have a nair in every room in the house. Ois cotton, no, we got to go weiter in the mechaber. Says the mechaber weiter. V'yesh mechavnim lasois shtei psilois. There are those who had the kavana and the minig to make a candle with 2 wicks. Echad keneged zachar, or an oil lamp with 2 wicks in it. Echad keneged zachar, one for zachar, in the first Aseres Hadibros, Zachar es Yom HaShabbos L'Kadshay, ve'echad keneged Shamar, and the other one keneged Shamar, where the pasuk says Shamar Shabbos. So we know Zachar v'Shamar b'dibur echad. Even though in one Aseres Hadibros in Parshas Yisro it says Zachar, and in Parshas Ve'eschanan it says Shamar. When the Rabbeinu Shalom said it, what's impossible for a basar v'dam, the Rabbeinu Shalom said Zachar v'Shamar together simultaneously, and everybody was able to hear Zachar and Shamar simultaneously, which is a tremendous nace. So there became a minig to have 2 neiros, one for Zachar, one for Shamar, and that's why nowadays everybody, the default minig is a minimum of 2 neiros, one for Zachar, one for Shamar. Says the Mishnah Berurah cotton gimel lasos vim ma'osav mitzum tzamin. If one only has a very small amount of money that he could spend on hadlakas neiros, niresh etov yoseh sheyikne echad yofeh v'lo shnayim gruin. If somebody is really pinching pennies, what's better? Is it better that he should have 2 for Zachar and Shamar, but they should be mediocre quality and mediocre beauty? Or should he spend all the money on one and have one that's yafeh? Says the Mishnah Berurah, it's better that you should have one that's more beautiful, because the ikar chiyuv is 1, not 2. Ois cotton dalet shtei psilois. The lashon of the mechaber is that there are those that would make 2 wicks. Says the Mishnah Berurah, hainu kishu doilik sheben bener. If you're using an oil lamp, So you have one lamp full of oil, and you want to make 2 Neiros. What do? You put in 2 wicks. So that's what the Mechaber means, that there were those who made 2 wicks, one for Zachar and one for Shamar. But v'im had lakasai hu b'neiros. But if you're using candles, so then oise shnei Neiros. So then you do 2 different Neiros. Or if you're using 2 leichter, you're using 2 candlesticks, even if you're putting something with oil in the top, so you do 2 candlesticks. Very interesting halacha here that a lot of women are not aware of. Says the Mishnah Berurah, umuter lahadlik miner liner. You're allowed to light one Shabbos licht from another Shabbos licht. So let's say you're coming to light Neiros Shabbos, and let's say you have a nice mishpacha, you have 6, 7, 8 licht. You're allowed to light one, and then take that candle and use that candle to light the next one, and the next one. So you're allowed to light one Ner Shabbos from another Ner Shabbos. Now there's a chiddush in this. What's the chiddush? The chiddush is that we just got through saying that the ikar chiyuv, the ikar mitzvah of Neiros Shabbos is 1 Ner. So really, somebody who lights 3, 5, 7, 10, 13, 14, Kanai Nahara, Neiros, only 1 is the ikar chiyuv. Now, to take 1 Ner, that's the ikar chiyuv, it's the ikar ner shel mitzvah, and to use it to light a secondary ner, a ner that's not really a ner shel mitzvah, you might look at that and say, how could you do that? It's almost like using a ner shel mitzvah to light a ner shel chayil. Says the Mishnah Berurah, this is not a concern. You're allowed to light 1 Ner Shabbos from another one. Let's see it inside. Umuter lahadlik miner l'ner. You could light from 1 Ner to the next Ner. Beinim madlik shnayim. This is true if you're lighting 2. A yoser, or even if you're lighting 13. No matter how many you're lighting, even though, there's zichud no chiyuv to have so many Neiros, you're still allowed to light 1 Ner from the other. Ve'ein bazeh mishum bizui mitzvah. This is not called a bizoyin. This is not called a disgrace to the mitzvah, like you're using the first Ner Shel mitzvah and you're using it to light something that's less kadosh than it. Not a concern. Why? The kulon shel mitzvahem, because all of the Shabbos licht are a mitzvah. Every one. Even though they're not a chiyuv, but there's still a mitzvah. And we can understand why based on what we learned earlier. Remember the machlokes Rashi and Tosfos. The ikar chiyuv of Neiros Shabbos is either kavod Shabbos or oinik Shabbos. But either way, the more licht you light, so then there's more light. So there's more oinik Shabbos. There's more licht. There's more kavod Shabbos. So they're all considered mitzvah, and we don't look at any of them as being secondary. Aval, however, and this is what I was referring to when I said there's a halacha here that I've seen a lot of women are not aware of. Aval, aser lahadlik kisem oiner shel chayil. You're not allowed to light a match or a matchstick, a piece of wood, or a candle that's not going to be used for Neiros Shabbos, Neiros Shabbos, from a Neiros Shabbos, mishum bizoi mitzvah, because that would be a bizoi mitzvah. Now see what the Mishnah Berurah says. V'nagu. Therefore, the minig is lahachmir bazeh, to be machmir in this halacha, afilu im kavanasoi kedei lahadlik boy ner acher shel Shabbos. Even if you want to light something so that you could use it to light another ner shel Shabbos. Now, I'll tell you where this is very negeya. I've seen this many times. A woman goes to light Shabbos licht. So she takes a match, she scratches the match, and she has to light 10 licht, k'nainar. So she takes the match, she lights the first one. She lights the second one. She lights the third one. Maybe she gets the fourth one. Now the match burns out. So instead of lighting another match, she wants to take the matchstick and relight the matchstick from one of the Neiros Shabbos that she lit already, and go on lighting further licht. That's this halacha. The Mishnah Berurah says the minig is to be machmir not to do that, because you're relighting the matchstick from a Neiros Shabbos, and the matchstick itself is not a Neiros Shabbos. You want to use it to light another Neiros Shabbos, but it itself is not a Neiros Shabbos, and therefore to light the matchstick from a Neiros Shabbos would be a bizoi mitzvah. So we should not do this. V'ayin b'bir halacha, he says, take a look at this bir halacha dibra maskel shtei psilois, where he discusses at length the question of why exactly the other Neiros are not considered secondary, etc., etc. Okay. Says the Mishnah Berurah weiter. The Mechaber said that the minig became to light two licht, one for Zachar, one for Shamar. Says the Mishnah Berurah something very interesting here. Echad, ois katan hey, v'yesha mechavnim lasois, there are those that go ahead and make Neiros Shabbos, they make a wax candle, mishnei neiros kluim biyachad, from two candles that are braided together. Kind of like a Havdalah candle. But a Havdalah candle is a lot more than two. A Havdalah candle is a whole bunch. But imagine if you would just twist two candles together and have two wicks. There are people that had the minig to make such a candle. Keneged Zachar v'Shamar. What's the pshat? Says the Mishnah Berurah, very beautiful. He says it's a zeicher l'mar she'amru Chazal, the Zachar v'Shamar v'Dibur echad nemru. Because like I spoke out, Chazal tell us that the Rebbeinu Shalom said Zachar v'Shamar at the same time, simultaneously. So instead of having one individual candle for Zachar and another individual candle for Shamar, they twisted two candles together and they made a Zachar v'Shamar candle. I'm kind of shocked that Ner Mitzvah hasn't done this. Well, maybe they have, and I just haven't seen it. Says the Mishnah Berurah, Minig Hagun hu. He says it's a Minig Hagun. Brings it down from the Bach, the Magen Avram, the Derech HaChaim. I've never seen this. Okay. Continues the Mishnah Berurah, Aval oisan anoshim, but those people, shemedapkin oisan b'shas hadloka smuchen zelozeh, but people who take two candles, and when they go to light licht, they melt them together and they stick them together, that the Mishnah Berurah says, shaloi kedin oisan. They're doing something that is not proper. Why? Kila b'saif, because in the end, when they're burning, mischamamais zu mizu, they heat each other up, the noitif hashava al yedezeh, and the wax ends up melting and dripping all over the place and burns out early, and that's not covered Shabbos. V'gam nichpalois v'noiflois, and sometimes they end up melting and bending over and falling down. You could even come chas v'chalila to a fire. Says the Mishnah Berurah weiter, Asr lahadlik Neiros shel Shabbos mishava haba based tiflosam shel einam Yehudim. You're not allowed to use wax that came from a house of avodah zarah. You're not allowed to use that wax for Neiros shel Shabbos. Afilu ba'oifet shemutar lahedyet, even if that wax is actually mutar bahana. Kigoin shebitloi ha'eina Yehudi. Let's say you had wax that was used in the service of Avodah Zarah, but then an Eina Yehudi who worships that Avodah Zarah came and was mevatel the Avodah Zarah. So now the wax is not really wax of Avodah Zarah anymore, that it should be Asr Bahana. Still, you can't use it for Adlakas Neiros shel Shabbos. Afilu hachi asr mitzvah, it's still asr to use it for a mitzvah, mishum demos, because it's disgusting. It's something that was used for Avodah Zarah. Mala'el Siman Kufton Dalid Sif Yud Aleph. Ayin b'Pri Begadim. He says, take a look at the Pri Begadim Shekasaf, who writes, Dem ein loy ner acher. If you don't have any other ner, kiyim zeh, except this one, deshari, then it would be mutter. Avi kol makom lo yavarech al zeh. But you still wouldn't be able to make a bracha because it's mos. V'ayil el Siman Kufton Dalid Sif Yud Aleph ubama shekasavnu sham. Okay, let's go a little bit weiter. Says the Ramah, the bottom line here in the Mechaber Haga, in the Shulchan Aruch, Haga, v'yechaylen lahaisef lahadlik shloisha ayarba neiros. The ikar chiyuv of adlakas neiros is one. We have a minig of two, Zachar v'Shamar. But you want to add, you want to make three, you want to make four, go ahead. You can add, v'yechaylen lahaisef lahadlik shloisha ayarba neiros, v'chein nagu. And in the Chirami, that's the minig. Says the Mishnah Berurah Katan Vav, lahaisef. V'yesh toihagen lahadlik shiva neiros keneged shivas yamei shavua. There are those that have the minig to light 7 keneged the 7 days of the week. V'yesh asara. There are those that have the minig to light 10 neiros keneged aseres hadibris, keneged the aseres hadibris. V'ein tzrichi liyos kulan al shulchan. But they don't all have to be on the Shabbos table. We'll stop over here. Thank you so much for joining me for limud HaTorah. The source of limud HaTorah should be Megan Agal's Klal Yisrael. The Rebbeinu Shalom should send Yeshua's, Refuah's, Parnasah, Sheduchim, to all those in need. And we should be zeicher to see the Bias Goyel Tzedek b'Meher V'Yameinu. Amen. Be well.